Welcome to the Diary of Discovery, the podcast where we delve deep into the human experience of healing and transformation. I'm your host, Jacky Clarke, and each week we will sit down with inspiring individuals who have embarked on their own personal journeys of healing and self-discovery. From overcoming trauma to navigating life's challenges, our guests share their raw and honest stories, offering insights, wisdom, and hope to all who tune in. So grab your favorite cup of tea, find a cozy spot, and join us as we uncover the power of resilience, courage, and the pursuit of authenticity. This is the Diary of Discovery. Okay, welcome back to the podcast. We are welcoming Nadine today to be our wonderful guest. So, Nadine, please tell everyone where you're from and what you are.
Well, I am Nadine, as you quite rightly say, and I'm in England. I'm in Hastings on the south coast. And I'm here just to really share everything I've learned along the way. This is all about healing, isn't it? And there's a lot to discuss, isn't there, about that? So I'm really happy to be here with you. Thank you for inviting me.
Amazing. Thank you so much for being here. I absolutely love the space that we create to talk about healing. And we're going to start at the beginning, as we always do, with what led to your healing moment. Like, what was the start of the journey for you?
Well, I've got to be honest with you. I was quite resistant to healing years and years ago, and we are talking decades here. I'm not a young lady. I've been doing this for a long time. But for me, the healing really needed to start. And this was the universe, my body maybe telling me that I needed some healing. And it was when I really hit rock bottom, when I started to feel that my health and my sanity was not going to manage to come through the way I was treating myself. That's when I started to think I need to do something. And I didn't think I needed healing. I just knew I needed to do something because I couldn't go down any further. That kind of repeatedly burning myself out. And didn't have a clue about, I didn't know what self-care was, never mind how to do it. I was not doing anything I needed to do. So, and my body was telling me one of the things that used to happen quite regularly was that I would lose my voice. And that was the only thing that would stop me working. I used to work too hard. And if my voice went, I couldn't work. So that was, again, that was maybe the universe. I always believe that there's someone else stepping into these things and going, right, you need to stop. And that was the only thing that stopped me. So it really was when I reached that point of my sanity. I was worried about my sanity and I was concerned about my health. So that was when I thought something's got to change. It was healing, but as I said, I didn't realize that at the time.
Yeah, I mean, we're in such an amazing space at the moment where healing has become a common term. The idea of, self-care has become so normal. And I think that that is really incredible, for the generations to come and how this is like, taught now, which is really amazing. But as you said, when you were going through this, it was, a little while ago. And like, what was that like? Sort of trying to figure this out for yourself and not really have anywhere to go or like any guidance.
Mm. It's tough. It was really tough. And I was one of those people that pretended everything was okay. And I was really good at that. I was so good at just keeping going, doing everything, the eternal people pleaser is how I used to describe myself. Again, I didn't know that term at the time, but I can see that now. I don't know if you can tell from the way I'm talking, I've done a lot of work on myself, so I realize these things now and I can really understand them. But actually, at the time, it was really just, I was really scared. I didn't know what was going on. And there were, like you say, there weren't these terms. There wasn't, as far as I was aware anyway, there wasn't the support. But I think the biggest thing was that I didn't recognize it myself. And even when I did start to think, oh my goodness, I don't know what's going on, I didn't really feel comfortable talking about it, sharing it. I wasn't going to admit I was in sales. I was like in a man's world. And to admit that I couldn't cope with something was not going to happen. So it was hard. It was tough to actually even recognize it, and then even tougher to do something about it. But I did, and I'm glad I did. So.
Oh, absolutely. And like, how did you start to sort of embrace I mean, I always call it my darkness, but like that fear,
Mm.
that part of you that you didn't really know how to deal with, like how did you actually start to embrace that more and more and like come to that healing?
Yeah, it's a really good way to look at it, I think, because embracing it again is something I wasn't familiar with. But it's the start of looking after yourself, isn't it? And I did realize I'm so much of a person who thinks, as I said earlier, I can do everything. But I thought I'm the one that needs to do something about this. And I did think I was the only one. I do realize now that there's lots of other people to help. But to start with, it was, and I really had to embrace, and as I say, I love that term, so I'm going to use it again. I had to embrace my fear. I had to embrace the side of myself that I was not accepting. Things like, I said earlier, I was a people pleaser, that led to me being a liar. I was someone who'd never told the truth. There was, I recognize now, a lot of shame in the way that I was feeling. I felt ashamed. I felt I needed to hide that. I wasn't being true to myself. As I say, I was lying, and lying, I sort of like to think for good reasons, but still lying. And then actually feeling, I was so scared of my fear, if that makes any sense. I didn't want to go there. I was scared of my feelings. So I
Mm,
really had to embrace this, realizing that I'm not capable of doing everything, that I do need some help. That was hard to accept. Realizing that I was so scared, admitting I was scared. I took me ages to admit to anyone out loud that I was scared, but even just
mm,
to myself to go, oh my God, I'm terrified. But I didn't know
mm.
what I was scared of. So it's all that uncertainty. So embracing all of that and really being prepared to face whatever I was going to face. And that took time, took a lot of time. So I did get to learn how to embrace it all. But that was really hard as well. So it was, yeah, but I had to embrace that, the dark side of myself, all the things I was hiding and I didn't want to admit.
Oh, absolutely. And I think like I absolutely love that idea of like you were just scared of feeling, because I can so resonate with that in coming through my own healing journey. And whether it was a good emotion or a bad emotion, it felt too big and it just felt like, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do with this, because I'd spent so long reining everything in and people pleasing, exactly like you said, like just not being too much of anything because I didn't want to upset anyone. Like it was, I can so feel that. Like it's such a good way to describe it. I absolutely love that. And like as you were going through that, because obviously we know, like I would love for healing to just be like, oh, I decided to heal and then it was done, but obviously it doesn't work like that. So, like, were there moments as you went through where you'd like resigned yourself to the fact that you were going to do this, you were going to like go through, and then you kind of backstepped and thought, oh my gosh, I don't know if I can actually deal with this. I don't know if I can make it.
Yes, every step of the way, constantly. That was me. I was so resistant to it all. Let me tell you something that might make you laugh, but it's so true of what you're saying. I had counselling. That was the first thing I did. I thought, right, I go to a counsellor. That was the first thing I did, talking therapy. And I just spent all my time and money lying to the counsellor. Again, I sussed out what I thought she wanted to hear and I said it. And I didn't because I wasn't ready to deal with things. So I tried many, many counsellors until I got one that would poke me and push my buttons. And really, I hated her, I've got to be honest. But she was what I needed. So it's that kind of, I was so resistant. And again, that fear, I didn't realize at the time that's what it was, but the fear of actually going there kept stopping me. So it took a long time to get that process going, and to recognize, because even though I was looking like I was asking for help and I was dealing with it, I really wasn't. And as I say, it took somebody to break through that to actually go through and then to start to see it. But then I backtracked. Every now and again I go, oh, I come out a little bit and then I go back in again and that kind of thing. So yeah, very long, slow process to be drawn out. So it was really, and there are times even now where I can still be resistant of it. I go, oh, really? Do I have to go through this again? Because it's all about, and it's exhausting, isn't it? I don't know if you found that, doing healing work, you do need to give yourself space and time, and love and care. And sometimes you need to rest too. So I'm a great believer in all of that as the package. So definitely we need it all, don't we?
Yeah, yeah, no, I mean my whole outlook on life is balance, as you know. So I completely agree that there are times to heal and there are times to rest and there are, times to say actually now's not the right time and that's okay.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
it can't all happen at once.
Mm, exactly. Having said that, though, when I say rest, again, I didn't realize, but I really do now. Rest is part of the process. When you do give yourself that space and that time and you appear to be doing nothing, that classic, that's when it matters, and I'm into meditation now and mindfulness, and actually those moments of meditation where I am still and quiet and I give myself that, that's when the things come up, that's when things process. And I do
Mm,
understand that now, that it doesn't always come like when I was talking to the counsellor. I don't have the, oh, wonderful aha moments, but I might
mm,
later on when I'm being still or walking in nature or something like that, when you give yourself that time. And again,
mm,
what I said earlier, I never gave myself any time. I worked all the time. I never ever gave myself peace, stillness, anything like that. So once I started to step into that,
mm,
I mean, the first thing I did to give me that kind of mindset was Qigong, which is a form of Tai Chi. And I started to realize that actually there's peace and although we were
mm.
physically moving, there was stillness in that. That was my first introduction to that kind of way of being. So that was wonderful.
Oh my gosh, I love that so much. And do you think that that sort of idea of allowing rest was the biggest change in your outlook on how your life was before to how your life was now? Or do you think there was something else?
Do you know, part of it, yes, I would say it definitely was. Because again, I was resistant to rest. I thought I had to be on the go all the time, and the world would stop if I stopped, because I'm that important. The classic, the world can't keep going if I take a little break. I'm sure people can resonate with that one. But for me, I think actually what changed the way that I approached this and the way that I dealt with this was there was a lot of actually feeling that I was worth something, that actually I had some value. And that again was like, I was quite, as I say, in a salesy world, in that pushy world. I would all the time be, I'm good, put it out there. But I never really felt it. So once I started to feel, and that again goes hand in hand with recognizing that I needed some help, asking for it, realizing that there were people that wanted to help me, and just starting to see, I am good at something. I am, and again, tapping into my honesty, which I wasn't doing. Actually, if I can almost show myself as I am really, rather than have this front all the time, that's okay. And again, that was really scary, but people would actually quite like that side of me that they'd never seen. I know I hid so much. I was, as I say, from shame, fear, all sorts of things. Once I started to let that out and saying to people, I'm having some therapy, I'm having some counselling, I'm doing things, I need it. And people go, oh, I never knew. What's the matter? That really changed things for me and my outlook and my way of going, I need to keep doing this.
Mm,
Because it was being a little bit more true to myself. And but rest was part of that self-care. That's when it all started.
mm,
And as I say, realizing that I can actually step off the treadmill sometimes and everything's still okay and come back. There is that little bit, isn't it, of if you're not there, you get forgotten and there's no place for you. So I definitely had that fear. But to
mm,
realize I can have a little rest and I come back and everything's still okay. Most of the time, better, actually. That was quite a revelation. And as I say, then realizing in those still quiet moments, there's still lots of work going on, but the deeper stuff, which was I'd never experienced before. So that was
mm,
quite lovely, actually, to do that.
mm. I absolutely love that. I took, oh gosh, it was probably 8 or 9 months out of my business when we relocated from the UK
Yeah.
back to South Africa.
Mm.
And the same sort of fear of like, am I going to be relevant when I come back? Are people still going to want to work with me? Is, my business going to exist anymore? Like all of those fears were running around. And it took time, like it took proper time to actually let them go and say, actually, we're just gonna bed into the new life, move, enjoy ourselves, do all the things we need to do. And I came back and surprise, surprise, the business was still fine. Everyone was still there. My clients were still happy. All the work was still being done. Like nothing bad had happened. And it is such a realization of like actually we put too much pressure on ourselves for what we need to produce in the world when actually just existing in the world is normally enough, which is, it's such an interesting kind of way to shift your perspective, I think. And I know, obviously, I know you, and I know that you no longer are in corporate sales, and something very big shifted as you were going through this journey. So, like, I always say to people that when you're healing, like, it fundamentally changes who you are. Like, you find a new purpose, you find a new direction, whether it's your line of work or whether it is your way of being, your relationships with people, etc. So what was that kind of shift in purpose and the sort of work that you started doing then, on the back of your healing?
Um, yeah, it's quite amazing actually, isn't it, when you do start to embrace this, use that word again, how things do change and how everything changes around you. I think sometimes because you just see it all differently, don't you? I realized I did have options. I realized that yes, I could take a break and things would change. I was scared of change as well, which I'm sure a lot of people are too. And to actually go, I don't have to hold on to that high powered hard work job. There are other things out there, and for lots of reasons I've changed my career quite a lot of times. I won't go into that now because that's not what we're talking about, but to realize that there's other things that you can do. And I naturally, when I started to find things that helped me, I'm one of those people that wants to tell the whole world about it. So I go, oh, I'm doing this and it's great and it helps me. And I go, oh, you need this and you need that. And so, that's, I can't help myself. You're probably the same. So I naturally was telling people what I was doing and how it was helping. And then that developed again quite naturally into what I do now, which is help people to find their calmer self, because I needed that. So what I've developed is as a whole program, a whole system that helps people the way that I was helped. And there was lots of things that helped me. So everything that helped me along the way, as I say, I was naturally telling people as I was doing it, but then starting to go, oh my goodness, I really love doing this. I want to help people. And it's very cliche because I say it a lot. I now help people the way that I was helped. And that has felt like that's my purpose. That's what I'm meant to be doing. So very different from what I was doing. But it also is beneficial for me because it keeps me accountable. While I am in this world now, I really do need to keep a check on myself. And I'm so grateful for that because that's something I need as well. So it does go round. But just opening up that, like, there's other things you can do, there's other things you can let go of things and new better things come in, and that was quite a revelation.
Oh, I love that. And I mean, like I've known your business for multiple years now. I've known from before we were hit with the horrible C word and we were all allowed to be out in person networking and we used to network together. And it's so interesting because when I hear you talk about how you were at the beginning of your healing journey, I can't even imagine that woman. Like, I can't even imagine you not just being your authentic self and saying how you feel and what you want. Like, from everything I know about you, that's just not who you are at all, which I think is so testament to the work that you've done and continue to do kind of as you go through. So, my question would be like, what is your advice for somebody who's just starting their journey, who's just realized that they need a heal, who is in that kind of fear and is a little bit scared of everything, and they just want some, maybe, some practical, some thought, like what could you give somebody to say, this is how you could move forward?
Yeah, it's really good to know. I mean, what I find is, like I said earlier, I didn't know I needed anything. I was resistant and everything. And that's what I find a lot of people are. And I'm not going to turn around and go, oh, I say to people that I see, oh, you're having a problem, you need this, you need that, because that's not really appropriate, is it? But having said that, what I find are people who come to me now, they've hit a crisis point in their life in some way or another. quite often it comes as what life throws curveballs all the time, doesn't it? You know, something happens and then they find they're not coping, then they can reach out. But also it can just be that they do reach that rock bottom, and you can see that. And however you might see that coming for other people, you can't tell. I wasn't going to be told, other people can't be. So sometimes it is that question of waiting for when they're ready, because that is the important thing. But for anyone that is stepping into that or not coping, you know, to say there are things you can do to help. And the most important thing is to be, you need to have some courage to ask for help, even if you don't know what you need help with, you don't know what your problem is. And that's quite scary, isn't it? You know, I don't know what's going on. I just don't feel right. I just, things aren't right. I'm not happy, whatever's going on. To go, there are people out there to help you and to ask for help. And that sounds very simple, but it's big, isn't it? You know, to actually go, I want some help. You know, I used to not be able to ask for help. I didn't think anyone wanted to help me. I didn't think anyone could. But actually, I've learned that that's different. So I think that would be the main advice I would say is, you know, ask for, or just tell someone, speak. You know, as I say, I was hiding all the time. I wouldn't admit what I was struggling with or that I was struggling. But just to actually say, speak to anybody about it, because the more, and there's power, isn't there? You know this, Jacky, that there's power in getting something out there. You're releasing it when you let it go. So sometimes by just saying to someone, I know if I can be really cross about something, and just saying it to someone, it's done sometimes, or shouting it to someone, that kind of thing. But also, you know, because I do meditation, I do a lot of breathing techniques and everything, I help people with that. I would say as well, breathe, remember to breathe, because that is, you know, whatever your problem is, whatever's going on, we hold ourselves tight, we don't breathe, do we? You know, that is the start of helping yourself, actually tuning into breath. There's so much we can tap into that helps us, isn't there? But breathe. Breathe is the first thing. We say it to children, don't we, when they're crying and they're in a state, we go, oh, breathe, breathe, breathe. We try and, well, we say it to adults, don't we? But so that's the first thing. That's a very practical thing that we do. But also to just go, you know, there's a whole world out there, the whole universe wants to support and help every one of us. Just start recognizing that and step into it. But it's hard, isn't it? It is tough.
Oh, absolutely. And I think like breathing is the most underestimated tool that we have available to us. It's free, you can do it anywhere, and yet majority of people never ever use their breath to regulate themselves. So I think that is such a good piece of advice. And it's not a hard thing to do either. Like using your breath to regulate you, it's not a hard thing to do. Anyone can do it. So I think that that is such a beautiful piece of advice to actually give people and remind people that that's what they should be doing. Now, this is probably, and like in every single episode, I always have like my most favorite question that I'm going to ask somebody. And because I know your journey and because I know everything that you've been going through, like this is probably my most exciting question to ask you, because your your like thought process and outlook on life is so different from so many people. And this idea of like healing is an ever going journey, and we are never done, and you have recently had a new healing journey placed in front of you. So I'd love for you to just share like what is your next level of healing and like the outlook on what you've been going through in the last little while.
Yes, you're absolutely right. It's ongoing. Healing never ends. It never stops. It's like you think you're done and you go, oh, I've dealt with that one, and it comes back. And do you know what I think, Jacky, is that you think you've learned, and then it's something kind of, you get an opportunity. I say an opportunity because I'm putting that positive take on it, an opportunity to go through that again and just look again and go, have I done what I need to do? Cross as it makes me, frustrated as it makes me, that it keeps coming back. Things keep coming back until you've gone. But what, just so that people know, because you've hinted at it very beautifully, I had a cancer diagnosis at the end of 2022. And I have been going through my treatment plan. I'm sort of coming to the end of it, sort of. Who knows when it ends? It probably doesn't end. It changes your life. It doesn't end, but that's okay. So I have had an opportunity to revisit my healing. because I've had to revisit my fears, my insecurities, everything, it put me in that like panic situation. Like people that have gone through it will understand, and people that love people that go through it understand. So my healing has stepped up another level. Again, it's that opportunity to look at things I thought I knew, things that I took for granted. I'm at that level. This hit me, and then it's like, okay, threw my world completely off balance. And it's like, right, what do I need to do now? And revisit all of those things that I did in the past that I thought I'd done with, stepping into it. As I say, I've got my own method, my calmer self method, that I have lent into heavily. All of the things that I help other people with, I've used myself again and again and again. And I know how brilliant they are because they work. So it is that idea of there's going to be something. And I'm not saying it to scare people. People aren't going to get cancer because they need to learn a lesson. But this is what's happened to me. It's my experience. And much as, yeah, I've had to face, the fear of dying, the fear of the word cancer, fear of losing my hair, fear of chemotherapy, all the treatment, is scary as well. I've stepped into all of those with all the things that I learned from the past. I'm so grateful that I've had all those things, to go, okay, I'm scared. Okay. And I can admit it. I can ask for help. I can do, I've got a wonderful medical team around me, but I've got a wonderful holistic team around me too. So really looking at, this is my next level of healing. I'm doing it again. I'm revisiting all the old stuff. And I honestly think that now this is going to just keep happening, and that's okay. It's okay to keep looking at it. It's a good thing. But physically, I'm building myself up now. I'm facing another lot of surgery at some point in time. So I'm really looking at building myself up, and that's mind, body, and spirit. So physically working on an exercise plan to build up some strength, mentally preparing myself because it's, as I say, major change. And I said this year was my year for rebuilding, and we're nearly in May now, aren't we? But and really, the way that I look at it is I'm decluttering, so I'm getting rid of stuff. That's another opportunity to. This is mentally more than anything, but physically as well, and streamlining. And that actually goes for the way that I need to go in my head, in my body, in my confidence, if you like, just getting that, building that confidence and everything to go forward in my life with this big thing that rocked me completely. And resilience is a word that I think is used a lot now, but building up my resilience for really stepping into the next part of my life, and it sounds very weird, but I'm quite grateful that I've had this shake up to really look at things again and build up and really look after myself better than I was. I thought I was, but there's always another level, isn't there? You can always go a bit more. And look, at my business is evolving in the same way too. It's going to change a little bit because of what I've been through, and why wouldn't it? We keep that flow going, don't we? So that is my next level of healing, continuous.
It's literally so incredible. And like to see any big life change as an opportunity to bed into your fundamentals like even more is such a beautiful outlook. And I think like the business that you run, the way that that has been your support system and has gotten you through this process, and like as you said, like it proves that it works because it's worked for you in one of the biggest, most scariest things that people can go through, which is your health. Like your health is such a fundamental to everything in your life. So I think that that is like, it's incredible. And I know that you're still in this journey, so I'm so grateful to you for sharing it so openly and being willing to not only talk about your past kind of journey, but the one that you're in right now. That is, it's such a testament to the wonderful human that you are. So thank you for sharing. Like we've absolutely loved it. Do you have any final words, thoughts, like anything you want to leave our listeners with before we wrap up our session for today?
Well, I want to say thank you to you for this opportunity. It is, as I said earlier, my go-to is to hide and not share, but this again is another way of me, like I will share because I know that it helps me to not hide. but it also helps others. And I would say, if anything, the same thing, share what you're going through. Don't be frightened to admit that you don't know or you're scared, because it really does help once you put it out there. It takes courage to do that. But anything that you're going through, anything that's happening, apart from like we said, it's very simple, we forget to breathe. That there's a lot we can do to help ourselves, but stepping into, and don't be afraid, like you said, about taking time away. I'm not working on my business at present. I haven't been for over a year now, but I know that it's going to be there when I come back. So we can always step away, whatever's going on in our life, step away to look after number one, which is you, and everything will fall into place. And that would be my, probably putting it in a nutshell, which I didn't do just then. Look after number one first, and everything else will fall into.
Oh, I love that so much. Okay, on that beautiful note, we're going to wrap up today's podcast. Thank you so much for joining me, Nadine. It has been an absolute honor. Thank you. Thank you for listening to another inspiring episode of The Diary of Discovery. If you found value in today's conversation, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast and share it with your friends, family, or anyone else you think might benefit from the stories of hope and transformation. Your feedback means the absolute world to us, so please take a moment to leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. Your reviews help us to reach even more listeners and continue to bring this meaningful content to the world. Until next time, remember, your healing journey is valid. You are never alone, and you have the strength to get through this. Keep shining bright, and we'll see you in the next episode of The Diary of Discovery.